Delighted to say that on the phone now we have Ray Laidlaw, who is the original drummer from Lindisfarne. Welcome, Ray.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm so happy to have you on the show. I'm really looking forward to this, and I couldn't exactly tell you why, except that Lindisfarne is one of those sort of iconic names from the 60s and 70s especially that everybody seems to know and be aware of. At the risk of really asking a really cheeky question, how does it feel to be part of a sort of iconic band like that?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's better than being part of a band that nobody likes, isn't
it? You're still doing gigs, and you're actually doing one called the Lindisfarne Story from Whitley Bay to Frisco Bay, which is touring all of England in a couple of spots in Scotland. I thought I'd mention the ones that are closest to us right up front. If you're into Lindisfarne, you will not want to miss this. Ray is touring with Billy Mitchell. It's the Lindisfarne Story from Whitley Bay to Frisco Bay. You're in Berwick September the 4th at the Maltings, and Langham at the Buccleuch Centre October 18th, and the 19th of October air at the Gaiety Theatre. And we'll mention those a couple of times during the interview so that you get a chance to get a pen and paper, and I'll also put them on my Twitter feed at F4Sum at some point in the next day or so. Now, you must have grown up in Newcastle, am I right about that?
Yes, I'm from the coast. I'm from a place called Northfields, little fishing hamlet on the banks of the River Tyne.
What was it like growing up there?
It was great. I mean, it was very different days, you know. I'm getting on a bit now.
Are you going to tell us how old you are?
Yeah, well, I'm 66.
66 is nothing.
I grew up in the 50s, and, and it was, to be honest with you, Billy's got a song called Born at the Right Time, and I think we were. If ever there was a right time to be born, you know, it was when we were, because we missed out on rickets and all those things, you know. But we were just about. I think I was 14 when the Beatles' first record came out, and there was no better age to be when that happened.
It's a totally different era to today, though, isn't it?
Oh well, everything's different. Things change. We were at the beginning of the rock and roll, you know, thing, and the first beat groups, all of that stuff, and it was just fantastic to be around when that was all happening.
I mean, for a new band today, everything is pretty tough. Everything's sort of been synthesized down into a sort of at the risk of being skeptical, sort of money-making machine like X Factor. Was it hard in those days to get a break, or was it easier because of the times?
Well, obviously you'd have to do it in both eras to find out how difficult one was compared to the other. But I mean, in our band, for instance, I mean that's what this show's about. It's about the history of the band. The band doesn't exist anymore now. It quit in 2003. But we're always getting asked for the songs and other things we're doing, so that's why we decided to do it. But basically, when we first began, there were loads and loads of bands, and there were also loads and loads of places to play. You know, I mean, they weren't all. It was fine as long as you were doing covers, because that's what most of the venues wanted. Once you started doing your own material, then it got a bit tricky, because not everybody wanted that. But we weren't stuck for places to play. I mean, when we were even just a local band, we'd probably be doing 2 or 3 gigs a week, every week, you know.
So how did the big break come?
Well, it was a series of little breaks, really, if rather than one big one. Myself and Rod Clements started the band in about 65 with a different name, and gradually set about pulling together the people we wanted to be in what we considered to be our perfect group. And we gradually did that over a period of years, so that the final piece of the jigsaw was Alan Hull, who was a little bit older than us, already quite an established songwriter. He joined the band in 1969, and then we got signed in 1970. But it was apparent to us from about 1968, 67, 68, that we were different from everybody else around, and we were pretty good. We knew we were good, and we knew it was really only a matter of time before somebody took notice.
I was going to say, so obviously listening to some of your tracks this afternoon before the show, and you're described as a sort of folk rock band, but it doesn't really describe your music. I don't think there is anything that really exactly sums up what you do or what you did.
Well, I think that's great, though, don't you? I mean,
yeah, I totally agree.
We never called ourselves a folk rock band.
Yeah.
Journalists and people call you names because they don't know what to describe you. You know, I mean, our heroes when we started off, you know, initial heroes were people like the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Muddy Waters and stuff like that. You know, that sort of stuff. we liked earthy, straight down the line stuff. We were similar to the Beatles in as much that we had 3 singers and we had a couple of songwriters. That was probably, other than the fact that we did, quite short tunes. That's probably where the similarity ended. But there were other parallels in as much that they were from a town, out of London, and we were from a town out of London, and they had sort of a bit of a geographical slant to what they did, as did we, and also we came along just about the time when the Beatles quit, and I think there was sort of a demand for quite short, concise, catchy songs, that weren't really pop songs, but there weren't really anything else either. You know what I mean? It was, if you listen to the singles that we had, the successful singles, they're all very different. We sort of had a style our style was having no style, put it that way.
Well, that's pretty good. I think I'm right in saying that you were the one who brought Alan Hull into the band, is that right?
Well, yeah, I met Alan when I was asked to go and play drums on some of his demo recordings. And at the time, our band was doing quite well. We were called Brethren at the time, and we were doing okay. We were getting record company interest and stuff, and it was growing nicely. But it became apparent to me very quickly that if we could somehow get Alan to get into our band, and I could persuade the rest of our band that Alan joining was a good thing, we would be unstoppable. Because he had a huge backlog of songs, all brilliant stuff. And the reason he was working solo is he'd never actually found the right people to work with. He'd been in lots of bands, but it never lasted very long.
He was a very focused individual, wasn't he?
Alan was, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, very, very talented, very... He was brilliant. He was. I really miss him. I miss him every day. He was one of my best friends in the world, and such a huge talent.
He wasn't always easy to work with, was he?
Oh, well, yeah, but, really talented people often are.
I like that, yeah.
He was opinionated, and especially when he got a little bit of success. For instance, he wasn't mad keen on touring countries that didn't speak English. Although he was a socialist all his life, and an internationalist in lots of ways. Uh-huh. He wasn't mad keen. He'd rather be in America or Australia or Canada than playing in Germany. Simply because he couldn't get a bacon sandwich in the mornings for his breakfast and things like that,
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we'll have a listen to... We're going to play a couple of your tracks from Lindisfarne, probably some of the more well-known ones that everybody knows. This is Run for Home. My guest this afternoon is Ray Laidlaw. It's Lindisfarne and Run for Home.
Good.
When you hear those sort of standard tracks from Lindisfarne, sort of the iconic tracks, does it kind of stimulate a flashback in you, or do you say, well, I've heard that so many times?
It does a bit. While that was on, I was just remembering what an amazing character Gus Dudgeon was, to work with Gus Dudgeon, who produced the album that track was on. We did a couple of albums with him. He was most well known for working with Elton John, but before that he'd done all sorts of stuff, everything from the Everly Brothers to Eric Clapton. He's been a very busy chap. But he was a very entertaining man and very knowledgeable, and he certainly knew how to make records sound good.
It kind of prompts a question with me that I probably shouldn't ask, but I will ask, which is, he's passed on, hasn't he?
Alan.
Alan has, but has not Gus Mafadjian also?
Yes, Gus.
Yeah.
Yes, Gus died in a car crash.
So there's two of them that passed on, and none of us are getting younger. When those type of events happen, does it kind of make you stop and think and evaluate your life a little bit? Especially, I imagine, with Alan. He passed on pretty young, really, didn't he?
He was 50, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course it does. Yeah, you think about it all the time. You think about, well, obviously, the older you get, the more of your contemporaries you lose, which is tragic in anybody's situation. But it's part of the cycle, though. It's, what goes on, what goes around. But you do think about stuff, and, as I alluded to earlier in the conversation, I consider myself to have been extremely lucky. Being at the right place at the right time and working with some incredibly talented people. Some people aren't as lucky as me, which is sad.
Do you feel that you're still the same person that you were, say, 30, 40 years ago, or do you almost see yourself as a different person?
Well, people change, inevitably. As you get older and as your experiences broaden, whatever, everyone changes a bit. I think basically inside I'm the same person. I've got the same enthusiasms and the same aims. The same. I enjoy the same things.
Life. Now, if I was to ask you to sort of look from your perspective that you have now in your 60s back to when you first started, would there have been many things you'd done differently, or you just would have gone with the flow as it probably happened there?
I wouldn't change a thing, actually. I think, other than not losing Alan, other than that. But I mean, in terms of the band's career path, I think we got it pretty right. We did stop and start a few times for various reasons, but they were usually the right reasons. I know at one point we were told we could have made an inordinate amount of money if we changed our plans somewhat, and but that wasn't why we did it. We've made a good living out of it, but we never set out to be pop stars. We never set out to be millionaires. We set out to be musicians that people would respect, and songwriters that people would respect, and basically to have a good time, and we've had a great time.
Well, you can't argue with that. My guest is Ray Laidlaw, the drummer from Lindisfarne. He's doing a series of gigs with Billy Mitchell around the country. Most of the ones are in England, but closest to us in Berwick on September the 4th, Langham October the 18th, and Ayr October the 19th. Is there a website that...
Yes, there is, yes. It's www.lindisfarnestory.co.uk.
That sounds brilliant.
Also a Facebook page and the Twitter stuff and all the usual stuff,
Let's have a listen to another of the Lindisfarne iconic tracks. This is Lady Ellen. Just to wrap up with, do you mind if I ask you a couple of random questions?
No, sure.
These are not deep psychological questions, however. Favourite TV programme?
Oh.
Can you pick one, or tell us about a couple?
Ultimate all-time favourite comedy, Fawlty Towers.
Fawlty Towers, pretty good.
If you're talking about broadcast TV as opposed to DVD box sets.
Oh, we're not picky here. We'll take anything.
I would have to say probably Breaking Bad is my favourite TV thing I've ever seen.
To be honest, I've never seen that. I have seen, obviously.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. TV making at its best. Mad Men as well. Mad Men is pretty wonderful. I love TV drama. What else? There's loads.
What about your favourite band? Obviously, besides Lindisfarne,
the best band I've ever seen in my life is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
What is it about him and them that appeals to you?
I think authenticity, integrity, huge talent, and absolute enjoyment and celebration of what they do. I've been watching them for 30 years now, and they keep on getting better. The songs are incredible, the show is incredible. He's got a huge bond with his audience, as do the band. So I think it's if you want to explain to a Martian what rock and roll music's all about, take him to a Bruce Springsteen show.
Can't say better than that. Okay, your final random silly question. If you hadn't been a drummer, what would you have liked to have been?
Oh, I don't know. I was working in the only proper job I ever had. I was working in a department store, doing window dressing and stuff like that, when I was about 18 for a couple of years. But since I've stopped being a full-time drummer, I mean, I'm producing DVDs and event organising and stuff like that, and I really enjoy that too. I probably enjoy that more, so I probably would have rather done that. I probably would have preferred to go into an event producer if I hadn't been a drummer.
Do you have a sort of hobby or anything that takes you away from the rock and roll life?
I like cycling.
Cycling.
I like gardening. We've got an allotment. I like going down there.
I don't know how rock and roll that is. An allotment.
Well, you'd be surprised. George Harrison was a wonderful gardener.
I'm kidding, of course, but you kind of the reality of what people are like is probably the like, as in all walks of life, you're really dealing with sort of regular guys with a talent, and I'm assuming that whatever we call your music, folk rock or whatever, it's the same in your line of business. You're dealing with regular guys with a talent who have everyday interests like the rest of us, presumably.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I do like performing. I enjoy that. I've always have, but I mean, it doesn't mean to say I can't enjoy just going for a pint and talking about football with my pals in the pub, you know.
Mhm.
That's just my job. That's what I do. But I mean, that's why this show has been such good fun. I mean, you know, Billy and I decided to take it out. We didn't want to pretend to be the band anymore because, you know, since Alan's gone and since the last version of the band quit in 2003, there wasn't going to be a full-time Lindisfarne band because there were no full-time writers. If you're in a full-time band, it has to be creating new material. So we decided to do a show celebrating the band, and there's a pair of us. We perform about 15 or 16 songs acoustically as they were written, you know, as they were first presented by the writers of the songs to the rest of the band. We tell the story from the very early days. We illustrate it with some rare video and loads of archive photographs and newspaper articles and stuff on a big screen behind us. And it's a lot of fun, you know. It's also, you have to remember, you know, we remembered certainly when we were putting this together, that when we started off, when the band began, our audience was predominantly students. And the music that you like when you're a student tends to stay with you all your life. So a lot of the people that come in now, they're coming, you know, they're probably our age. Some of them are bringing their kids. But basically the Lindisfarne music over the years has been like a soundtrack to their life too, as well as ours. So it's a shared experience again. That's why this show works so well.
I always feel that the real test of any track is whether it stands the test of time and whether people keep playing them. And obviously bands like the Beatles, their tracks are gone forever, and certainly the tracks that we've been playing today of Lindisfarne, they're ones that, to me, I'm sort of with you. Of course, I was sort of a teenager when you're in your sort of heyday, but to me they all stand up still today, which is the...
Well, me too. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, when you're in a band, you tend not to listen to your own stuff much. Once you've made the record, that's the fun thing. You don't listen to it much. But in the process of promoting this tour, when I've been doing a lot of stuff like this, listen to them again, and they stand up. They sound as fresh as paint.
Absolutely. Ray's gigs along with Billy Mitchell, as far as the ones that are close enough for us to attend: September the 4th, the Berwick Maltings; October the 18th, Langham Buccleuch Centre; and October the 19th, I think that's probably the closest to us, the Air Gaiety Theatre. The tour is called the Lindisfarne Story from Whitley Bay to Frisco Bay. Ray, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and to talk to someone whose music I grew up listening to. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks for asking me.
Thank you so much.